What are we doing here tonight? I'd offer two reasons why this is such an important day in the life of the church, why it's a holy day of obligation, why the church obliges us to come. The Solemnity of All Saints is kind of two things. It's a recognition of a reality, and it's also a very forward-looking, it's a very aspirational feast day in the life of the church. Let me explain. The current reality is that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of saints in heaven right now. Some of them, a tiny fraction, are known to us. Your favorite saint, the saint you were named after, the saint that your home parish was named after. Maybe these saints that we have up here on statues. These are the saints that we know about. Joseph, Mary, Francis Xavier. Fill in the blank with all your favorites. That's a tiny fraction, though, of the ones that are in heaven. So All Saints is kind of an all-encompassing solemnity, feast, of a reality that all of those named saints are in heaven right now, worshiping God and praying for us. That's pretty great. But it's also a recognition that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of others who are saints, who are in heaven, but whose names are not famous, whose names are known only to God. You might think about the holy people that you've experienced in your own life. Parents, grandparents, siblings, children. The Solemnity of All Saints is a recognition of a heavenly reality. That right now in heaven, thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, saints, people who walked this earth like you and me, are worshiping God for all eternity and praying for us. That's one of the things that today is about. But today is also an aspirational feast day. It's very forward-looking. Because from the day of our baptism, you and I are called to be saints. That's our vocation, yours and mine. Anything less would be us not living our life to the full. Every single person in this church is called to a life of holiness. Every person in this church is called to a life of saintliness. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, we fall short. We fall short in all kinds of ways. We need God's mercy. But that doesn't take away the call. Maybe you've committed sins, maybe big sins. That still doesn't take away the call to holiness, the call to become a saint. In fact, if you look at the lives of the saints, one of the most beautiful things is that many of them were way bigger sinners than you. Many of them committed big sins. They lived terrible lives far from God. But through God's mercy, through their conversion, they began to live a life of holiness, a life of saintliness. And now they are in heaven with God forever, worshiping Him and praying for us. So today is a recognition of a reality that right now, all those saints are worshiping God and praying for us, but also that that's where you and I want to be. That you and I, every person, every one of us, our vocation, first and foremost, is holiness. And when we live a life of holiness, a life of prayer, following the commandments, loving God and loving our neighbor as best we can, and asking for God's mercy when we don't. That's how saints are made. Saints are also made through the power of Jesus Christ working in their life. How do we receive Jesus Christ into our life? Most especially by receiving the sacraments. By especially, as often as we can, as devoutly as we can, receiving Holy Communion, receiving Jesus Christ into our bodies so that he can strengthen us to be able to live the life that he calls us to live. It's a reality that right now, all these saints are worshiping God and praying for us, and it's also where you and I want to be. So we ask today for the intercession, for the prayers of all the saints, the ones we know about and can name, and the ones who are known only to God. May they intercede for you and for me, so that through the power of Jesus Christ, through the power of the Holy Spirit working in our life, you and I may join them one day.